मह्यं नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नित्यनामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone once again to our series of trying to study the Bhagavad Gita. We have been doing this series in some time, the commentary of Sripad Ramanujacharya primarily. So we will be continuing with that. One second, yeah. Yes. Okay. So we are currently in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and we have done till now 28 verses. So as usual, we will begin with this verse of Yamunacharya, where he summarizes every chapter. So we will look at a summary verse for the 6th chapter and then start from that. So look at this. This is verse number 10, which you see on the screen. This is by Yamunacharya in his book called Gitartha Sangraha. So I'm referring to, so I've just added one more, level in our discussions. So I will also be using the translations of Sripad Ramanujacharya, which I have here with me. So we'll be using this as well. So we'll be, and also I'll be looking at Prabhupada translations. This is from the Veda base. So as I've always said, many translations are very similar. Some translations, however, are different. Purports also many are similar. There are differences, which is normal because the Gita is explained in different ways by different acharyas. Not really a contradiction, I would say, but it is just like a jewel, where the jewel is seen in different colors in different ways, right? I mean, there's some jewel called Vaidurya jewel or something. If you look at it from different angles, you will see it with a different color. So similarly, different acharyas, you have seen the same verses spoken by Krishna in multiple colors, and when we understand all these colors, it becomes quite colorful. So that is the purpose and goal of our study, right? Yeah, so looking at the 10th verse of Gitartha Sangraha, which is a summary of the 6th chapter, Yoga Abhyasa Vidhi, Yogi Chaturda, Yoga Sadhanam, Yoga Siddhisva, Yogasya Paramyam, Shashta Uchyate. I always start with this because I just love his summaries, Yamunacharya. It's so succinct for every chapter. So he's saying, in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is speaking about 5 themes. Yoga Abhyasa Vidhi. The first thing is how to do yoga. That is the first 28 verses, okay, which we discussed last couple of sessions. Yogi Chaturda means types of. 1 second. I don't know why this sound is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yogi Chaturda means 4 types of yogis. This is what we're going to discuss today. Okay. This is from 29 to 32. Yoga Sadhanam. Okay. So the Yoga Sadhanam is referring to this. From 33 to 35, that particular section. Yoga Siddhi, that means how to achieve success in yoga. Krishna talks about the yogi who gives up the path of yoga and continues next life and all that, right? That is Yoga Siddhi. And then the final part of the 6th chapter is Yogasya Paramyam. That means the topmost yoga. That means the culmination of the yoga, which is Bhakti, like Yoginam Api Sarvesham, that verse. Shashtam Uchyate. In this way, Yamunacharya has divided this particular chapter into 5 sections, and we have already done the first section, Yoga Abhyasa Vidhi, and today we are going to do Yogi Chaturda, the 4 types of yogi. Okay, so these 4 types of yogi, they basically appear in the Bhagavad Gita in these 4 verses from 29 to 32. Okay, 29 to 32. And Ramanujacharya in his commentary very beautifully, he talks about these four levels of yoga as something very progressive. Okay, so that means 29 is the first stage of yogi, 30 is the second stage, 31 is the third stage, and 32 is the fourth stage of yogi that Krishna is describing in this section. This is how Ramanujacharya describes. And you can see in the verses itself, like for example, if you see in this 32nd verse, if you see in the end, Krishna is using the word yogi paramo mataha, correct? Yogi paramo mataha means what? Krishna is saying, in my opinion, he is the greatest yogi. Okay, greatest yogi means in this section. Okay, so please try to understand. Later, Krishna is also going to speak about yoginam api sarvesham. Now that is a completely different thing. We are not bringing bhakti yogi over here. We are just talking about the Ashtanga yogi only, who has 4 levels of achievement. So please remember. So this is how it is. So when here Krishna is saying yogi paramo mataha obviously means the highest. But the highest in what? The highest in this grouping. Correct? Like we say, right? In a classroom, we may say, these 4 are the top students in the class. But in the whole nation per se, there may be some JE exam or something where somebody else may be the first. So the Bhakti Yogi is like that. But this is in this group. Okay, so we are talking still about Ashtanga Yoga only. So in Ashtanga Yoga, there are 4 levels of yogic achievements. And this is amazing and beautiful to see. And this is what we will be seeing today. Okay, so let's start with the verses. So as usual, I'll be reading the verse. We will first read Prabhupada's translation. Then I will be seeing Ramanujacharya's translation. I'll tell you the difference between the two. And then we will discuss from Ramanujacharya's purport. So this is how we are going to do this. So let's start with the 29th verse. Sarva bhutastamatmanam sarva bhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvate samadarshana. Okay, now one very common feature in these 4 verses is samadarshana. Krishna is talking about how the yogi sees at everything at the same level. Okay, so please remember, this was already discussed previously when we spoke something from the 5th chapter, right? When Krishna spoke about Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. In those set of verses also, we saw the importance of Samadarshana. Krishna gives a lot of emphasis on Samadarshana in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, that means a yogi is supposed to have that equipoised vision, that equal vision at everybody. But now what Krishna is going to do in the next 4 verses is, he is going to define successively higher levels of Samadarshana. So 29 will be 1 level of Samadarshana, 30 will be a higher level of Samadarshana, 31 even higher, and 32 the topmost level of Samadarshana. Okay, so that is how Ramanujacharya explains Krishna's verses, right? So we will be going through it. So 29, I just read the verse. So we just start with Prabhupada's translation. So Prabhupada says here, text 29, a true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same supreme Lord, everywhere. Okay, so Prabhupada translates here as that the yogi sees me everywhere, and that is how he sees Samadarshana. So that is his thing. Now, Ramanujacharya's translation actually in this verse is different. I'll tell you the difference. So I'm also using the translations provided by Ramanuja, which I studied from my teacher, this Velugudi Swami. So I'm using that same PPT itself here. So you don't have to look at all the other stuff which is all written in Tamil. Just look at this section where the translation is given. Okay, so the same verse, Sarva bhutastam atmanam sarva bhutani chatma, verse is the same. Look at the translation. I'll just read it directly. The yogi whose mind is fixed in yoga, that is yoga yuktatma, perceives in all selves, sarvatra. So sarvatra is here translated as all selves. Okay, that means all the atmas. Okay, samadarshanaha, the equality in their essential nature. So samadarshanaha means what? Here is Ramanujacharya saying the equality essential nature. Ikshate, he perceives sarva bhutastam atmanam, the jivatma existing in all other entities having the same essential nature as his own self. Okay, and his own essential nature which he has realized as the same essential nature of all other entities. Okay, so I hope it is not too difficult to understand, but when we look at the purport, we will understand this better. So Ramanujacharya, the essence of his explanation is here for this verse is that the yogi sees all atmas at the same level. Okay, so here, interestingly, Ramanuja is not using Paramatma here. Okay, Sarva Bhutastam, this word which is there, na, Sarva Bhutastam. In Prabhupada's translation, that Sarva Bhutastam becomes Paramatma, but Ramanujara is using the Sarva Bhutastam as Jivatma, which is fine because as we have seen many times in scriptures, right? The same word Atma is used sometimes for Jivatma, Paramatma, etc. So let's try to understand why he's saying this. The explanation is pretty interesting, and it's kind of in line with the next 4 verses. That is how he's described. So what he says is, the first level of yogi, he sees all people at the same level. Okay, he sees everybody at the same level. What do you mean by he sees everybody at the same level? Seeing everybody at the same level means he understands that due to the body there is a difference, but at the level of Atma there is no difference. Okay, so that is what is there in the Sarva Bhutastam Atmanam. That means everybody is an Atma. Okay, every living entity is the self, and as a self there is no difference among everybody. Okay, Sarva Bhutastam. Sarva Bhutastam means he says he sees this yogi, he sees himself everywhere. Now, when you say that he sees himself everywhere, what does it mean? He is here only, right? How can he see himself everywhere? So, is he referring to Paramatma? No. So, he's saying what Ramanujacharya says in explanation is that the yogi, because so if you go back to the first 28 verses, right? We discussed Ashtanga Yoga, where the yogi is, sitting, is sitting for a designated time period daily, right? So that is how we had explained the first 28 verses. Daily he sits for a designated fixed amount of time doing his yoga sadhana. That means he's sitting and meditating on himself. And when he does that, at that particular time, when he's sitting and doing the meditation, he's not focusing at that time on other atmas, mind you. Okay, he's supposed to focus on his own atma. This is the Ashtanga Yoga process, right? If you remember the first 28 verses, or if somebody has a background of Patanjali Yoga Sutras, we know that in this process of yoga, the person sits for 1.5 hours daily and he focuses on his own atma. Okay. Now, when he's focusing on his own atma like this, at that time, he by doing this type of meditation over a period of time, this yogi starts to realize that, array, just like I am the atma separate from this body, similarly, all the other people are also atma only, which is separate from the body. All the other people means humans, animals, plants, everybody. Okay. So this realization comes to him due to his meditation. Now, please remember, okay, so Ramanujacharya says that this person, this yogi, about whom Krishna is speaking in verse 29, he is having this realization when he is sitting for his yoga meditation. Okay, so that is part of the first word, yoga yuktatma. So yoga yuktatma means when his mind is fixed in yoga. That means when he's sitting in yoga for 1.5 hours daily, doing his meditation, at that time, he's focusing on his own atma only, sitting and doing this Ashtanga Yoga process. But by doing such a meditation daily, he starts to understand that, array, I am different from this body. And then he gets this realization that just like I am different, everybody is different and we are all same. Okay, so we are all same here means Ramanujacharya gives the example, just like if you touch, like we all know, right, when we cook rice, if you touch one grain of rice, we understand whether the rice is cooked or not. You don't have to touch every grain of rice. So similarly, Ramanujacharya says that just by understanding his own Atma, which is like that one grain of rice that you are touching, okay, you understand all the grains of rice because everything is same. All the other grains are also as much cooked as this one grain only. So similarly, he says, because of his meditation, this yogi, he perceives that just like I am different from the body, I have this nature of knowledge, bliss, everything. Similarly, everybody has this nature of being different from the body. And in this way, all of us are at the same level. This realization comes to him. So please remember, this is not a theoretical understanding. Okay, so right now, for example, we are all discussing from the Bhagavad Gita, we are reading this verse, we have this theoretical understanding that yes, everybody is different from their body, etc. But the realization of this sakshatkar comes by some type of tapasya only, right? Some kind of meditation. Okay, so just like even with reference to Krishna's holy name, right? I mean, we all may have the theoretical understanding that Krishna is non-different from his name. Okay, but there is a realization which is to be had, right? Which a Bhakta yogi, for example, he obtains that realization by chanting the name of the Lord with a lot of sincerity, love, etc. Over a long period of time, he gets that realization. So similarly here also, this yogi in verse number 29, the first level of yogi, he has now understood that all the people are actually just like me only. They are separate from this body, and they are Atma. So this is what he has understood. So this is how Ramanujacharya explains verse 29 as level 1 yogi. Sarva bhutastam atmanam sarva bhutani chatmani. Ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshana. He understands it like this. Okay. So now let's go to the second level of yoga. Okay. So as I said, there are 4 levels here. So we'll go to the second level. Now, this is a very famous verse. In fact, we will spend some time with this. This is verse number 30. Krishna is saying, Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sachame na pranashyati. Right, here the translations of Srila Prabhupada and Ramanujacharya are pretty similar. Slight one difference is there. I'll tell you the difference. Prabhupada translates text 30 as follows. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Okay, so that means Yomam pashyati sarvatra, sees me everywhere. Now this everywhere which is used in Srila Prabhupada's translation is more generic, as in everywhere means everywhere in Srishti, correct? So this also has a very important significance. I will be talking about this. But Ramanujacharya in his translation, what he does is, he speaks about like this. See, look at his translation. The yogi who perceives the essential nature of myself means Krishna is saying, the supreme Paramatma, beyond karma, etc., as presently similar in the essential nature of all selves. So here Sarvatra, Ramanuja is translating as other Atmas, which is also fine, right? So Prabhupada translated Sarvatra as everything included, the entire Srishti. Ramanujacharya is pointing out Sarvatra means all other selves. Okay, and he who perceives the essential nature of all selves as present similarly in my own essential nature, to such a matured yogi, I am never out of his sight. No pranashyami. That means he continuously sees me, and he is never out of sight to me as I continuously see him. Okay, so very similar translation, except one part where the sarvam has been translated by Prabhupada as everywhere, and he has translated it as all Atmas. Okay, so now I'll tell you what is the logic, or why he has done this. What is the connection to the previous verse? Okay, so Ramanujacharya, what he says is, in the previous verse, in 29th verse, we had seen that what was the level of achievement of the yogi? The yogi understands that just like he is separate from the body, he is the Atma separate from the body. Similarly, everybody is also separate from the body. Now in 30, what the yogi understands is, not only there is samadarshana or similarity between all Atmas, there is also a samadarshana or similarity between all Atmas and Paramatma also. Okay. So please remember, so this is a slight advancement, right? Because in the previous step, he has only understood, Ashtanga Yogi has only understood that all Atmas are at same level, samadarshana, because of being Atma. Now in 30, the yogi is understanding that not only are all Atmas equal, even the Paramatma can be brought into this equation. So that is what is the first line. Yomam pashyati sarvatra. When the yogi perceives, Mam means Krishna as similar to all other sarvatra. Okay, so here the understanding is, what he translates it is, his explanation is that Krishna is similar to all the other Atmas, and all the other Atmas, their nature is also similar to Krishna. Okay, so in what sense are they similar? The Ramanujacharya says that, see, they're similar means, so in Vedas, there is one statement in one of the Vedic texts which says, apahata papma. Apahata papma means the Lord is never touched by any papa or any punya. Okay, the Lord is called apahata papma. That means he is never touched by any fruitive actions. He is completely beyond karma. Okay. Now this yogi, what he understands is, by prolonged meditation, etc., he understands even the Atma is apahata papma only. That means the Atma's essential nature also is that he is never touched by any piety or sinful action. Correct? I mean, Atma is actually untouched. Right? Prabhupada also quotes that in several of his purports, where he says, Asango hyayam purushaha. Asango hyayam purushaha means the Atma is not affected by any material situation, piety, sin, etc. It is actually independent. Because of illusion, we are identifying with all this, we are suffering. Otherwise, Atma is not touched in the natural state. Now what this yogi understands, please remember, this is his realization. This is not some theory that he has just read in a book. He has come to this realization that, Hare, just like the Lord and all of us are samadars, we can see all of them at the same level. Why? Because everybody is free from papa punya in their natural state. All atmas are free. Lord is eternally free only from papa punya. In this way, we are all actually safe. Like this yogi starts to understand. So this is how Ramanuja is translating and explaining this verse. Slight difference, but it's in this particular sequence. Okay, so Ramanujari obviously clarifies that the jiva is Anu and the Lord is Vibhu. So in volume there is a great difference, nevertheless, but there is this similarity also. Correct? Just like we say Veda Abeda Tattva, right? So please remember this verse is focusing on the Abeda, that means the non-difference between the Atma and the Lord. Please try to understand this. This verse is focusing on the non-difference between Atma and the Lord. Later, Veda comes that there is a difference. We will see that when we come, for example, to the 9th chapter. In 9.4, Krishna says, right, that I am in everything, but everything is not in me. He says that time, correct? In that famous 9.4 verse, he says that. So we will come to that later. Okay? But here, Krishna is focusing on the fact of equality, that there is a commonality between all the living entities and himself, the Paramatma, Krishna. Okay, and that commonality is that none of them are ever touched by karma. They're all free. They're all actually belonging to the spiritual realm. Okay, so this realization our yogi obtains. So please remember, he actually, okay, he obtains this realization due to his progress in yoga. Okay, and because he obtains this realization, Ramanuja says the next line comes: Tasyaham na pranashyami. Tasyaham na pranashyami means what? The Lord is never lost to such a person. Why is the Lord never lost to such a person? 1 second. I'll just mute everyone. Else somebody, by mistake, they get unmuted. Yeah, so I've just muted everyone. Okay. Tasyaham na pranashyami means the Lord is never lost to such a person. So Ramanujacharya says, why is the Lord never lost to such a person? He says the Lord is never lost to such a person because this yogi who is there, when he sees other living entities, immediately is reminded of the Lord. He's reminded, Are, this Jivatma is actually free from all Papa Punya in its natural state. It is simply caught up in this body. Our Lord is also like this only, Paramatma. He is also free from all Papa Punya and he is eternally, situated in a spiritual realm. So because of this, the Lord is never lost to such a yogi. Okay, so that is the connection between the first line and the second line. Tasyaham na pranashyami. Okay, now the fourth line. Sachamena pranashyati. Okay, even I continuously keep looking at him, he says, correct? Are you understanding this? So in the second line, there are two parts to it. One is the yogi never forgets the Paramatma, and the second part is the Lord never forgets the yogi. So one may say, what does Krishna mean by saying that he's always, the yogi is always in the sight of the Paramatma? Isn't everybody in the universe in the sight of Paramatma? Answer is yes, everybody is in the sight of Paramatma only, but because Krishna loves such a yogi, he has a special side towards him. Okay, so Ramanujacharya gives the example, just like a parent is there who has a baby, newborn baby. So the parents keep looking at the baby always because they have a lot of love for the baby. They're constantly looking at the baby, whether everything is fine with the baby. Like we all know, right? When we had our children when they were very young, every 10 minutes, parents keep looking at the child. You have kept the child in the bed. We hope the child has not rolled over. Is the mosquito biting the child? Is something, has the child responded to the calls of nature? Kind of continuously the parents are looking at the child only. So similarly, he says, just like that, the Lord also keeps looking at this yogi because he loves him so much. Because the Lord feels, this person, because he has achieved the Samadarshana, right? So that is why the Lord is very, very pleased with such a person, that this person is looking at everyone equally. He is looking at all Atmas equally. He has understood my nature, the Paramatma's nature. He is seeing my nature and the Atma's nature, similarity between them. So the Lord is very happy with this yogi. Okay, and that is why he's always looking at him. Okay, so that's the meaning of this this doesn't so it means the meaning here is out of love. Okay, so this is how Ramanuja describes the 30th verse. So this is a very, very important verse of the Gita actually, and we can talk about this verse over and over again. I just wish to mention here, Govind Prabhu, when he explains this particular verse, he brings out certain very important thoughts, which I wish to explain here before I go ahead. This is not from Ramanuja commentary, what I heard from Govind Prabhu. So what he says here is that this verse is something that as devotees we need to really think about it very deeply, because this verse has two parts to it. One is Krishna is saying that one has to see Krishna everywhere, okay, and see everything in Krishna. That means see Krishna in everything and everything in Krishna. Two parts to it, okay. So he says that seeing Krishna in everything is what is explained in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and seeing everything in Krishna is explained in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so the 10th and 11th chapter he says are explanations to the first part of this verse, which is again very interesting, because it's now here we are looking at Sarvatra as everywhere and everything. Please remember, we are not looking at it just as all souls. In Ramanujacharya's translation, Sarvatra means all Atmas. Okay, so just like in Prabhupada's translation, Sarvatra was everything. Okay, so in that connection, he's talking about this, that seeing Krishna in everything and the reverse way also, everything in Krishna. So the 10th and 11th chapter explanation of this verse. More importantly, an important lesson to be learned from 6.30 is that we have this concept in our scriptures, but we may not apply it so much always very carefully. That a Kanishta Adhikari's nature is to see Krishna only in the temple, okay, only in the deity form. But a more advanced yogi wants to see, or consciously tries to see, Krishna in every aspect of creation. Okay. And sometimes you will see that in our Indian culture, Sanskriti, Bharatiya Sanskriti, these things were ingrained in cultural systems. Okay, so just like give a simple example. Like sometimes you see that even a person who climbs a coconut tree, like in typical rural areas, these villagers who climb, they call the coconut tree as a kalpa vriksha. And many times before they climb, they touch they touch the bottom of the coconut tree, where the tree is touching the ground, and they put it to their forehead. It's a common sight actually. In India, actually, people do that with many ingredients, right? Like recently, I was seeing one dance drama. It was a folk dance. There were some songs about Krishna, gopis, etc., but it was a Rajasthani folk dance. So the artists, when they came to the stage, the first thing they all did was they touched the floor of the dais and they put it to their forehead. It's like they were doing naman to the dais where they were going to perform the dance. Okay, so they did a Rasa Leela type of dance. It was very soberly done. It was the Rajasthan folk dance they had done. But what interested me is that the artists, they see even the platform where they dance as something divine. Okay, so this is there in our Bharatiya Sanskriti, that everything is seen as divine. Okay, the objects that you use for your work, the simple things, right? So in everything you see divinity. Like I gave an example earlier. In Kaudang they see divinity. In a coconut tree you will see divinity, right? You call it Kalpa Vriksha. So you see Krishna everywhere. So this is indeed a very mature vision, which somehow our culture had imbibed in common people as well. But sometimes it happens that we refuse to see Krishna in everything. As in, like we want to see Krishna only in some kind of occupations or job, etc. Right? Or we may feel that, oh, here Krishna is not there, or this is not Krishna conscious, etc. So, but actually, from Gita's perspective, no, you need to be having the vision of seeing Krishna in everything, or in every kind of maybe occupation. It may be every ingredient in the material world. To see everything, that means to see divinity in everything, which sometimes it can happen with an immature devotee, where you may not consciously see it like that, and you may become more narrowed, where you see Krishna and Krishna conscious experience only within a temple setting or something like that, which is which so certainly Krishna, we are not saying that Krishna is obviously in the temple in the deity form, so that is certainly there, but then that vision of seeing Krishna in the deity has to extend where we start seeing Krishna in our regular work, in everything around us. So this is a very important lesson from this verse, which perhaps we can take. And another lesson from this particular verse is the Advaitavada, right? So we say we are Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva. Okay, but sometimes we focus only on the Beda, the difference. Okay, but there is a Beda also. There is a similarity. Okay, and this verse is actually talking about the Abeda part, where Krishna is saying that there is a similarity between all the Atmas and he himself. Okay, so just like we discussed now. Right, so this is about the 30th verse, where which is the second level of the yogi. So please remember, this is an improvement over the previous level, because the previous level, in 29th verse, the yogi was seeing only that similarity between all Atmas due to their nature of Atma. But now he is seeing that the Atmas and Paramatma are all of the same nature, because they are all free from all karma and everything, right? Yeah. Now let's go to the 31st verse. So now we are going to see the third level of yogi. So we said yogi chaturtha. So this is the third level. So look at the verse here, beautiful verse. Sarva bhuta sthitam yomam bhajatyekatva mastitah sarvata vartamanopi sayogi mai vartate. Okay, so this is the 31st verse. Okay, so now let's look at Srila Prabhupada's translation here. Yeah, text 31. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the super soul, knowing I and the super soul are one, always remains always in me under all circumstances. Okay, yeah. So this is how Srila Prabhupada translates this verse. Going to Ramanujacharya's translation. Yeah, look at this. Okay, so now one very important point before we go ahead. Ramanujacharya explains that in the previous two verses, this yogi who was there, he was having this understanding only when he was doing his yoga dhyana at that time. When he was out of yoga dhyana and when he came into the normal world, so to speak, when he was doing karma yoga. So please remember the whole context. We have already said, right, that this yoga, Ashtanga yoga, is for the karma yogi who is doing karma yoga 22 or 23 hours every day. 1.5 hours daily, he is sitting and doing this meditation. And in that meditation, he is having these realizations. This is the 29th and 30th verse. Okay. That comes in this verses like yoga yukta atma. That means at the time when he's doing yoga, that time he's having all these realizations. That is how Ramanujacharya explains. But now in the 31st verse, what is going to happen is, okay, he's talking about a yogi. He's always in that consciousness. So please try to understand. Always in that consciousness means even after he comes out of the yoga, he is having the same kind of consciousness. So let's see how that is happening here. So look at the translation here. The yogi who in the periods of practice of yoga, Ekatva Masthita, is immersed in the realization of equality between the essential nature of Jivatma and Paramatma, is both possessing limitless knowledge, Mam Bhajati, and experiences me, Sarva Bhuta Sthitam, who is dwelling in all entities, that yogi, Sarvata Vartamanaha, Sarvata Vartamanopi is there. Na? Sarvata Vartamano means what? When out of yoga practice and even when engaged in all other activities. Please try to understand. Ramanujacharya lays a lot of emphasis on this phrase in this verse. Sarvata Vartamanopi. Shloka mein aata hai na, second line mein. Sarvata Vartamanopi. Sarvata Vartamanopi. Sarvata means what? Under all circumstances. That means even when he is not doing the yoga per se. Correct? So if you remember, we had discussed that this yogi, one or 2 hours he is doing yoga. Other times, even when he is not doing that time also, Mai Vartate continuously contemplates on the equality between myself and himself and thus remains focused on me. So please try to understand. Here, Ramanujacharya explains that Krishna is explaining the third level of yogi, where now this particular yogi, what is happening is, so there are two differences between this verse and the previous verses. One difference is Sarvata Vartamanopi. That means Hamesha he is at this level. Okay, which is more difficult. Because in the previous levels, when he was sitting for meditation, he would realize this. And then he would realize that all the Atmas are same. And he would realize, even Paramatma is similar to us only. Even he is free from all sin and all that. So like that he was. But now more progress has happened. So because of that, what is happening is this person always is in that. So this is the first difference. Sarvata Vartamanopi. Even when out of yoga practice and when engaged in his normal duties of karma yoga, that time also he is conscious of the similarity, samadarshana between all the Atmas and Paramatma. That is first difference. And second difference here is saying is that this person understands that just as the Paramatma is not lacking in any knowledge, the Jivatma also doesn't lack in any knowledge. That means, see, this is another aspect. So there are two aspects to Ekatvam. Ekatvam means similarity between Jiva and Paramatma. One similarity is that the Jiva and Paramatma are both free from all Papa. That is a preliminary understanding. But a more advanced understanding of Ekatvam between Atma and Paramatma is that they are all having unlimited knowledge and bliss as well. Correct? So that is considered higher understanding. Okay. Being free from karma in the natural stage, that is basic. Okay, so now this is higher understanding. So here he's saying that this person understands even more. Okay, so he has understood the equality between Atma and Paramatma one level up now. He has understood that the essential nature is that both have Chit we say na, the Chit is the very important characteristic. Satchidananda. Sat is of course eternal. That is understood at the first level itself. जो Satchidananda mein na, the Sat means eternality. That is understood at verse number 29 only. That the Atma is separate from the body. So Sat has been understood, but now Chit has been understood. Chit means more higher. Ananda will not come here so much because that will come in the Bhakti part. But Chit also he is now understanding. That the Atma and Paramatma are both having unlimited knowledge. Okay. And Mai Vartate, continuously he contemplates on the equality between himself and others. So that means even this yogi is such that even in the normal course of action, okay, that means when he is doing his normal daily duties also, because his meditation was so deep that even in his normal duties, when he's doing his karma yoga, even that time he's conscious of Paramatma everywhere, and that particular thing. He's in that spiritual level even in his normal day-to-day life. Okay, so this is like an advanced yogi, right? I think pretty much we say the similar thing about every kind of sadhana, right? At the first level of sadhana is at least when you're doing sadhana, be conscious of what you're doing. Higher level is even under normal circumstances, you are able to remember Krishna, chant his name, be conscious of Krishna in every condition of life. Like that. So to be like that is more Krishna conscious or more advanced. So similarly, this yogi is more advanced. And because of that, Krishna is saying here using the word Mam Bhajati. Okay, Ramanujacharya says, how Bhajati is being used here? Because actually Bhajati, Bhajan karna, it is little more for a devotee. Na? 9th chapter we can understand Bhajan comes. But here, 6th chapter, yogi Bhajan bhi nahi kar raha hai. He is only sitting and meditating on Atma. Just by that he has come to this level. But Ramanujacharya says no, because he has understood the similarities between the Jivatma and Paramatma. The Lord is giving him that, that title of being a Bhajati, that you're experiencing me. Okay, so Bhajati here is translating it as, that the yogi here is able to connect and relate to the Paramatma. Okay, so he's in that manner he's worshipping him. So in this way, he explains verse number 31. Okay, so please remember, so we have come to the third level. Now, finally, we are going to the fourth level in this particular verse. Okay, so let's see the fourth and the last verse for today. This is 6.32. Atmopamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yediva dukkham sayogi paramo matah. So Ramanujacharya lays a lot of emphasis on this word paramo matah. Paramo matah means topmost yogi. Topmost yogi, if you remember, I said in the beginning, in this section is the topmost yogi. Okay, so what is the translation of this? So let us see. As usual, we'll start saying from Prabhupada's translation. Prabhupada says here, verse number 32, he is a perfect yogi who by comparison to his own self sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and distress, O Arjuna. Okay, so here the translation is going to be very similar, almost the same translation. So we will mainly focus on the explanation of this verse. Look at Ramanujacharya's translation here. Verse number 32. Hey Arjuna, the yogi who due to realization of the equality of all jivatmas, Atma Aupam Yena. Atma Aupam Yena means equality of all jivatmas, Sarvata, in all beings, considers Pashyati Samam, equally due to the realization of unrelatedness of oneself and the other. I'll explain this. I'm just reading it first, but I'll explain this. Samam needs explanation. Samam is translated as equally due to the realization of unrelatedness of oneself and other. Sukham va, joy, like birth of his son, etc. Yadiva dukkham, or sorrow, like death of his son, etc. And is then immune to pleasure and sorrow. Such a yogi, Paramomataha, is the best among all yogis. Okay, so good. So now we have reached the final stage, the fourth stage of yoga, Yogi Chaturtha. So here what Krishna is saying is that this is the topmost. Okay. So topmost, why this is considered topmost? Ramanujacharya said this is considered topmost by Krishna because he has now got samadrishti in practical life. Please try to understand. In the previous verses also, the 3 verses, the samadrishti was there, but it had still not percolated to the practical life of an individual. If you remember in the first verse, 29th verse, what was there? I'm sorry, I'm repeating again and again, but it's important. 29th verse, we saw the yogi sees everybody same because they are all sat, they are all separate from the body, eternal and so on. Second verse, 30th verse, we saw he sees not only all atmas are equal, but they're equal to Paramatma also. Why they're equal? Because they're all free from karma and they are not affected by papa punya. And in the third verse, we saw that this person now he's seeing sarvata. Every time he's able to see it, not only during his meditation. And also he's understanding that everybody has knowledge as well. Okay. But now, but this was all still, you may say, theoretical. I mean, not theoretical, it's a realization only, but it had still not come into practice. Okay. Practice as in the external sense, because sukha dukkha is something external, right? You are experiencing sukha and dukkha. Okay. So here Ramanujacharya says, this yogi has to see sukha dukkha as sama. So when he says sukha dukkha sama, does it mean, is Krishna saying that you should see your own sukha and dukkha equally? Ramanujacharya says, no, that doesn't fit in this concept. Because what do you mean by seeing your own sukha dukkha equally? No, that's not what Krishna is saying here. Because the whole discussion is about seeing all atmas, correct? Samadrishti is not with yourself. It is with seeing all atmas. So he says that this is not about seeing one's own sukha dukkha equal, but it is saying others, your happiness and another person's happiness as same. Your distress and another's distress as same. Okay, so now please try to understand this concept. Okay, so first of all, sukham means joy. So Ramanujacharya says sukha in this world, the highest sukha is the birth of a son. So that is why he gives that as an example in the practice. Okay, so sukha means highest sukha is the birth of your son. I'm sure as householders, all of us have had this experience that when you had a child, that was one of the greatest moments of pleasure which you experienced. Okay, sukha. And dukkha, sorrow, Ramanujacharya again says that the highest dukkha in the world is the death of one's son. Okay, so that is also considered very, very painful. And we see that like in the Ramayana, right, with the Shravan Kumar, when he was passing away, what his parents said, how Dasharath Maharaj, of course, Dasharath Maharaj's son Ram did not quote unquote pass away, but that separation, going away, that was very, very painful. That going away of the son, to the forest. Ram was sent to the forest. So that was like almost like death only, because when a person goes like this, he almost never comes back, or that's the fear, whatever. Okay, so that's considered dukkham. Okay, so samam means, so Ramanujacharya here is saying samam means the yogi starts to understand that just like I am different from this, because I am different from this body, this body is experiencing some sukha dukkha, another body is experiencing sukha dukkha. So all bodies are experiencing sukha dukkha. Okay, but neither my body nor another's body is related to myself. I'm different from others' body also, and my body also I'm different. So because of that, whether I got happiness or somebody else got happiness, I have to see that somehow. Okay, so now there is some more explanation here. So Ramanujara says, what does it mean by saying that you have to see others' happiness and distress like your happiness and distress? So Ramanujara is asking the question, does it mean that if your neighbor had a child, you should feel as happy as when you had a child? Is that the meaning of this verse? Then Ramanujara says that, how can that be an explanation? Because if you say that anybody has a child, you must feel as happy as when you had a child, then what that would mean is you would constantly keep experiencing happiness, and other way around also. You constantly keep experiencing distress. Something happens to somebody, someone's family member dies, and if you have to feel the same amount of dukkha, like how you would feel, then you would always be oscillating between extreme pleasure and pain, because something is happening to somebody always. Then how will you go to mukti? So Ramanujara says the meaning of this verse, the way we need to understand it is that just like if somebody else has some sukha dukkha, we are not affected, right? Similarly, when some sukha dukkha happens to our body also, we should not get affected. That is the meaning, he says. Okay, so that is how he concludes this verse. So he says, just like if your neighbor or someone had a child, you're not so much affected by that, right? I mean, you're like, your life is just going on. So similarly, he says, in your life also, when nice things happen, then you be very sober. You don't get too affected by that. Okay, so the meaning is the other way around. So it's not that you have to be as happy as when you got something nice when someone else gets. Rather, what it means is when someone else gets, how less affected you are, that much less affected you should be when something happens to your body. So that's how he explains this verse. Okay. So sukham va yediva dukkham. Okay, so whether it is sukha or dukkha, sukha dukkha, what happens to others, how much we are affected by that, that much only this yogi is affected. This fourth level yogi is affected when sukha dukkha happens to his own self. Okay, so I think the best example of this is Srivas Thakur, right? We all know that when his son passed away also, he was at least not at all affected in so many ways. He was dancing, and he was like telling Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya, that nothing inauspicious has happened and so on. So right, so in this explanation, that's what you see, that one is not getting affected so much. Okay, and such a yogi is considered the topmost yogi as per Krishna, because he has got that samadarshana in practical life. In day-to-day life, he has got it, and he is very less affected by, and so automatically he's not affected by his own sukha dukkha. That is minimally affected. So please try to understand, when we say not at all affected, there can be very shades of it. I would say that the understanding is that at the highest level, it's hardly affected at all, but progressively speaking, minimally affected. Okay, so the Vedic culture gives a lot of emphasis on, even when death happens, etc., not to cry too much, on it. So there has to be some lamentation, but you don't go overboard with your lamentation. So that is considered very important in practice. Okay, but the point is, this yogi naturally reaches the stage where he is simply not affected. Okay, so this is how he explains this particular verse. Right. So in this way, these 4 verses which we saw today, they are explaining the 4 levels of yogi. Okay, yogi chaturda. Right. Hare Krishna. So any questions or comments, we can take them. Anyone has a question? Yeah. Yes, Damodarashtam Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, there's 2 questions. One is...
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I muted you. 1 second. Yeah, go ahead, Damodarashtam. Sorry, by mistake.
Yes, Prabhuji. So first question is that in one of the verses we saw that similarity between us and the Lord, that we are not touched by karma, something we discussed. So how do we see, like still there means this point comes as a differentiation also in some verses, like na karma lipyate nare. That is what Krishna explains, that the karma doesn't touch me. So that time we are taking it as a difference between us and the super soul, or the supreme personality. And here we are saying that that is the
Yeah, so we qualified it, na? We qualified it by saying that in its pure stage, the Atma is not affected. So please remember that verse. See, the Lord is never affected by karma.
okay.
The living entity in the condition stage is affected by karma in terms of his because of the wrong association. But in the pure stage, the Atma is also not affected by karma, right? So if you remember, Prabhupada quotes,
Asanga Hyayam Purusha.
yeah, Vedic verse very often, Asango Hyayam Purusha. Purusha there means the living entity, Atma only. Asanga means he is not affected by this material, contamination. So there is that pure state. So please remember why it is relevant here, because this yogi is sitting in meditation, right?
Mhm.
Yogi is sitting for his meditation. He is experiencing the pure stage. He is not experiencing the contaminated state. So please try to understand. This is from his perspective. The yogi who's sitting and meditating, who's doing Ashtanga Yoga, who's meditating on his self daily, because of that meditation and because of the power of the Ashtanga Yoga process in general, he's getting purified, right? He's getting purified. And because he's getting purified, he is able to understand that actually, I'm not affected only by all this karma and all that. And then he understands that even that Paramatma is not affected by all this. And he understands that we are same in this level, like that.
Okay. Second is this Ashtanga Yoga. Like we know that there are this 8 stages, Yam, Niyam, Asana. So where does that come? It comes in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, because in Bhagavad Gita it is not given here.
Yeah, no, it comes in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It is there in the Gita also, but it is just that Krishna has not, spoken so much from that perspective of what shall I say? He is not technically put it like that. But there are enough verses in the Bhagavad Gita that talks about all these 8 stages. I'll just 1 second. I'll just try to open that presentation. I think I have it. Just give me a second. I don't know where was it. Just 1 second. Yeah, I think I got it. I had made a presentation. I don't know where I lost it somewhere. Maybe sometime I'll show that. So there are verses of the 6th chapter which correspond to each of these stages. Maybe next time I'll just show it.
Okay. So when we are talking that he's in samadhi, means he is in meditation. So basically he is practicing this 8 stages. He is somewhere in one of the stages. Like
yeah, he's in one of it. He's in one of it.
Yeah.
And these 4 are considered like the culmination of it. That means when the yogi has perfected, then 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 levels of success or whatever you want to call it.
Okay, and the higher than this 4th stage of yogi is the last verse where we are.
That's what I told you, na. It is like, see, in a class we say, na, like in one division. Let us say your daughter is studying in BMS in one division. We may say in this 10th standard division, this is the topper, this is 2nd rank, 3rd rank, 4th rank. But then national wide there is a topper, na. Pura desh mein ek topper hai, na. So that's completely different, right? I mean, that's even more, what shall I say? That's at a different level only, na?
Yes.
Similarly, here also, these 4, among these Ashtanga yogis, these are 4 levels. But then later when Krishna brings Bhakta into the picture, then he is superior to all these. So that's at a different level comparison. Here, the comparison is only in this category of those who are doing this Ashtanga Yoga. Makes sense, na?
Yes. So Ashtanga Yogi, the highest stage he can reach is that last verse.
Yeah. Ashtanga yogi will reach this. But among all yogis, the bhakta is the topmost. वो अलग है.
Yes.
वो मतलब वो like that is like at the national level you're seeing.
Okay.
Yes, sure, na Prabhuji.
Yes.
Yeah, I just got that verse also. 1 second, I think. No, I didn't get it. Yeah, this is the one. 1 second. Let me just project this. One second. Yeah, this one. Yeah, so basically you will see these verses. Yama is 6.10, Niyama is 6.14, 16, 17. Asana is 6.11 to 13. Pranayama Dharana is 6.15. Dharana is 6.18. Dhyana is 6.19. Samadhi is 6.20 to 23. So like this, this 8 stages of Ashtanga Yoga are classified as Bahiranga Yoga, Antaranga Yoga. Bahiranga Yoga means external yoga. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Dharana. Paila 5 stage Bahiranga Yoga. And then Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi is Antaranga Yoga. Okay, so all these 8 stages which are in Patanjali are there in Gita also. Those verses are there, which I have pointed out here in this slide. But Krishna may not specifically call it like that, but sab hai, Gita may be hai. Right? So this is all in the first 28 verses only. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Okay, if there any other question? Is there anyone else? Oh, I never saw some personal messages to me. Can you zoom into the English portion? Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see the messages. Okay, any other question or comment? We'll end with that otherwise.
No problem.
I think the important takeaway is this only, that this whole thing of equality, the Samadarshana, it is so much emphasized by Krishna to see equality among people, to see, Samadarshana, this particular thing that the yogi is supposed to be. So this is a very important takeaway. Equality not only among people, equality among occupations, equality among, that's why we see, right, in the Vedic culture, all types of people can become devotees of Krishna. Correct. Now we see, for example, in Krishna's Dwaraka, there is a fisherman, there are prostitutes, there are so many people, right? I mean, all types of people are there. And they all, in some way, can become devotees. Because in the material world, there are 3 modes. And there are different people who take up different occupations because they're affected differently by the 3 modes. But each of them can get connected to some kind of transcendence, and especially the yogi is able to see that. So these are some. Yeah. Anybody with any comment? Who's that?
Haribol?
Yes, Amar Gaur Prabhu, you're saying something, or?
I have a question.
Yeah,
When we say that someone who has come in contact with Bhakti Yoga or got an opportunity to practice Bhakti Yoga, it is that they have been through all the other stages. Now, relating it to the example that you gave, being first in a division in a standard and being first at the national level. So being first in the national level automatically means you are first at all other lower levels. You have been through it. So is that what we understand when we say coming to Bhakti Yoga means you have done well in all other levels? That's why it's a, what do you say? It's a mathematical induction based on given 2 facts. This is a logical conclusion.
Yeah, in general, yes. So the way the Gita progresses it, the Gita takes it like that only, step by step. However, all acharyas, including Ramanujacharya also, have not emphasized on the need of Ashtanga Yoga as a practice. So please try to understand, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga as a practice, they have emphasized. But Ashtanga Yoga, they haven't, because they have said that instead of sitting and meditating on yourself, directly start meditating on Paramatma only. right? By chanting his name, etc. So that part everybody has accepted, and that is there also in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna talks about the yoga ladder concept in 6.34. If you remember, we discussed that 2 classes back, where Krishna talks about this yoga ladder stage, yoga rudha. That particular verse, Krishna does talk about that. So the idea here is that karma yoga, by and large, everyone has accepted as mandatory. I mean, nobody can bypass that because Krishna very clearly says that. But as far as the Ashtanga yoga process is concerned, right? Krishna has also not Krishna has mentioned that as the natural progress, because the person who does this normal karma yoga, jnana yoga, he does Ashtanga yoga, and then at the end he comes to the understanding that the Paramatma is the greatest. So let me just meditate on him only, and he transforms into a bhakta, which we will see slowly. Correct? So that is the natural progression. But all acharyas have emphasized that this Ashtanga yoga process which is there, the elements of Ashtanga yoga process are important for us. That means the yama, niyama, rules, regulations. Like we have 4 regulative principles. Now that is some kind of yama, niyama only, if you see carefully. Similarly, discipline, all these the aspects of Ashtanga yoga are important. But that core process of Ashtanga yoga, where you sit and meditate on yourself, which is what the yogi does, as per Patanjali also, that they have not emphasized as mandatory. That can be skipped. If you know the goal of life is Krishna, then you could start from Karma Yoga and then go to Bhakti Yoga, like that. So that part is accepted by all. Hope that makes it clear.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam. Prabhuji, what is the difference then between the first stage and we simply in layman language call introspection? Is that just the process difference, or the thought process is same, or
Which one?
how do we?
I didn't hear again. I didn't hear. Please say again.
Prabhuji, the first stage where the yogi is meditating on self, right? And typically people do like introspection also, right?
Yeah.
So what is that difference in that, and what is the role of introspection in Bhakti Yoga?
Yeah, see, the introspection that people say, many times it may be a focus on the mental state of ourselves. What in the layman language people call as introspection, where people say focus on your inner mind, the thoughts that are going on, and focus more deeply what you want to do. And, right, like in normal motivation talks, etc., people talk about introspection. Here, this meditation on Atma is much more deeper than that. Okay, so this is only at the level of mind, but though that also gives some benefits to people, right? I mean, materially it gives them some benefit, at least it sobers them down, etc. I would say that this Ashtanga yoga is the height of introspection. It is like you're going very deep into all those layers of Mana, Buddhi, Ahankar, and Atma itself. You'll have to actually, we'll have to read sometimes Patanjali Muni's instructions on how to sit and meditate on oneself. And let me tell you that he has done a very detailed analysis of that. I had once done this course with Nimai Leela Prabhu of GV. 50 hours he taught us Patanjali Yoga Sutras. And if you go through all those verses, he talks about it very deeply, how you slowly uncover all your coverings, Man, Buddhi, Ahankar, and focus on the self, I. The Atma, which is a conscious principle, focus on that. So this, I would say, is the culmination of all types of introspection. Though in the layman language, people talk about it more superficially, more from perspective of achieving some material success, which is possible, but that's not the goal here. This is more deeper. Does that make sense?
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, a small follow-up there. Gyan Yoga also, in a way, says that understand that you are a spirit or a soul, and one is part and parcel. So if that understanding is bringing, this is just the Pratyaksh Praman, and that is just the guidance from scriptures. What is the core difference, or it is taking in the same direction?
Yeah, good point. See, the difference is in Jnana, it is focusing on that knowledge. In this Ashtanga yoga process, it is putting that into practice. Okay, so the yoga process is going higher than Jnana. The Jnana process, the Niti process is to intellectually understand many things. But if you remember in the jnana process, this doesn't come. This practice part is the yoga. See, ultimately everything gets connected. That means the jnani will also be a yogi, right? Because whoever does jnana yoga, quote unquote, he will eventually sit and do this Ashtanga yoga also. It's not that he will stop with that. So it is a continuous thing. But the difference is there, it is more analytical, it is more philosophical, it is more intellectual, etc. Whereas in the yoga process, you have to bring it in practice. You have to sit. Suchodhe.
Okay, okay. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we can end here. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Jai Gaur Bhakta.
Very well.